This is a bit of a broader topic today, but I've been looking into cult stuff, and I wanted to talk about some of the common themes that I've seen in them, and I wanted to kind of make my own definition for cults themselves. The definition, if you look in the dictionary, well, I've just been looking at websites really, but if you look, you'll see that the definitions, there are multiple definitions and they can vary a lot. And the most notable definition I saw was that a cult is defined as just a group with a particular spiritual kind of ideology. And by that definition, a lot of modern religions fit into this, including Christianity. So I could definitely see a need to make a more specific definition. A lot of websites have tried to tackle giving a more specific definition, but I think I'm going to define a cult as a group of people, usually with a leader and some kind of social order or hierarchy that has a certain spiritual and or religious system of beliefs that is kind of unorthodox for the society that it's in. Something I would also add to this definition would be that the beliefs in question tend to be kind of removed from reality, kind of out there. The leaders of these cults also tend to isolate and manipulate their followers, but I think that's maybe an optional addition to the definition, so I'm not gonna really add it. What I want to bring up too, though, is that I don't think all cults necessarily lead to mass suicides or death. I just think because of cults like Heaven's Gate or the People's Temple, the most infamous ones we know of are ones that have resulted in death. So that is why people being hurt is generally removed from my definition, personally. But I did mention a hierarchy, and I want to talk about that too. Usually, it is some kind of social order, and the best metaphor that I've seen for this social order is a pyramid. And you've probably seen the pyramid like this used in the context of scammy businesses, and I think it's really interesting that it also applies to cults. And there's our little triangle, and you can probably guess where this is going. At the top would be the most powerful people, and that would be the leaders. I've noticed the amount of leaders can really just vary based on anything, really. Sometimes it's been a couple, or one person, or a family of people even. Generally, they are the ones that are calling the shots, and they are the ones that are making orders for everyone below them on the triangle to go. There we go. Usually in a pyramid setup like this, this doesn't apply to all cults, but you can also rise among the ranks, but usually there is a cap at this, where the leaders begin. You can't really become a leader yourself because, you know, the leaders of these cults usually believe they're divine, and you can't really top divinity. But below them are the typical followers, and you can separate these into about 3 categories, really. You have people who've just joined this cult, people who are maybe a part of this cult, but not really intensely, and then you have people who are very devoted followers. They might be giving portions of their paychecks to the cult, or working within the cult instead of having some kind of day job, or they're just generally offering a lot of themselves to this group. Something also worth noting is that the devoted follower is likely to know more information about the less palatable ideologies of a cult itself, as opposed to, say, a new recruit. New recruits are the people who have only just been enlisted into a cult, and they've yet to really undergo indoctrination. Indoctrination can happen in a lot of ways, and this mainly involves either learning the beliefs of the cult or unlearning certain things about reality that are deemed not true by the cult. I think it's important to note that those who are indoctrinated into a cult, these new recruits, they're not dumb people. I watched an interview about someone who was previously a member of Scientology, and they said that there isn't one person that believes they are easy to manipulate, and I think that's true. Usually, people who are members of a cult tend to prey on people that are vulnerable in some way, whether that be they are part of a marginalized community, or they are poor or struggling financially or just vulnerable in some way. Someone who is in a cult can try and prey on these vulnerabilities, and through that, say you're feeling very isolated and you don't have any friends. Well, someone who is from a cult could say they could offer you things like human connection or friendships or other kinds of relationships. Cults in this way can be very manipulative, and they could take advantage of anyone, really. They can offer things like money or power or fame, or even more grand things like a sense of cosmic purpose. It's also important to note that some people, some new recruits, they aren't external. Some people are actually born into cults, and that is very interesting, maybe personal thing I would like to look into at some point, but that'll probably be for another video. But for the most part, people who are recruited into a cult are indoctrinated into their beliefs, and sometimes this can also include signing over money or time to the cult and just generally proving your devotion through your service to the cult. And a big draw of these cults, like I said, they're very religious and spiritual in nature, so that usually offers them something beyond the physical. This is where cults can become more sinister, and this is also where religion and spirituality plays the most key factor. The leaders of a cult can actually make themselves almost above the rest of their followers in the way that they can claim they hear messages from God, or they can even be reincarnations of prophets or God himself. In this way, cult leaders can act like they have some kind of hidden knowledge that other people don't, and that's part of the reason why people should join their cult. And not only that, but usually these leaders imply that the rest of the world is either dangerous or sinful in some way, and this ties into the way that a cult leader can isolate a follower. In the way of sin and danger is usually something about doomsday. The doomsday element, as it were, is something that I've seen in a lot of these infamous cults. Usually the information, the date this doomsday is going to happen, or maybe the way it happens, is something that only the leaders know. This element is also something that has added a lot of tension to groups like these, and suddenly in times of hardship or times of waiting for this apocalypse to come, it will lead to them doing some very drastic actions like mass suicide or murder. In the case of Jonestown and the People's Temple, this was the mass murder that killed almost 900 people. This was carried out because Jim Jones was paranoid that the US government was going to come for them and enact some kind of punishment that would be worse than death for each member. And in the case of Heaven's Gate, this was mass suicide so that an alien flying over the earth could take their souls to heaven before the gate closed. And in a lot of cases like these, death isn't really seen as a bad thing. It's seen as an option to reach some kind of ascension or some kind of higher state of being, to rid yourself of the physical form in favor of gaining a more powerful spiritual form. I definitely won't lie, this is horrifying, but as far as I'm aware, this is the most dark, extreme case that a cult can get to. A lot of the cults I have researched for this were the more infamous ones that ended up in people dying or being subjected to abuse or other horrible things, but as far as I understand, at least in the confines of my definition, a cult could fall on a spectrum, in theory. And if that theory is right, there are probably plenty of more obscure cults that could make for some interesting videos. So I do plan on doing that in the future. If there are any more obscure cults that you know of that you would like me to cover, feel free to mention them. This topic in general is very interesting and personal to me, especially considering I'm doubting more and more what the hell I grew up in. But I think it's important to also note that I'm not trying to villainize spirituality or religion here. I think first and foremost it is the people who led these groups that caused so much destruction, and spirituality and religion in general are a tool that can be used for good and bad. I'm still trying to figure that all out, but for now, if you have any thoughts about it, I'd love to hear from you, and I hope this was maybe educational or entertaining to you. If so, very glad to hear it. But that's all I can really think of for now. I'll see you guys next time.